Hello. Forgot to bring the mic down. What's up, everybody? Good to see y'all again. So, yeah, yesterday we were all confused about what was happening with Melania, but I think I have a pretty good idea now. But before I get into that, 1 second, I want to recognize something real quick. These are a few of the people who were killed this week in Lebanon. Gada Dayak, I'm probably pronouncing that wrong. She was a reporter. There was a journalist, Suzanne Khalil. Khatun Salma Kershett, she was a famous poet. And there are also children, Talin Admit Hazmi and Yasmin Hussein Alam, Fatima Amhaz, Nadim Shamsuddin, Olar Atta. Pretty crazy. It was like 3 journalists and a poet I saw, and I was like, what is going on? But I guess that's what happens when a city gets carpet bombed. Crazy. So, yeah, let's get into this Epstein thing. I wanted to just take a minute to recognize those who are no longer with us in all this craziness. I have a bunch of links that I'm going to dig through and probably fact check in real time. But we've been talking a lot about, or we were when we were covering the files, Paolo Zampoli. Let's look at his page first, just for a refresh for those of you who might not be familiar with him. For some reason, my screen's loading a little bit slow today. Here we go. So this guy, he is the United States Special Representatives for Global Partnership. Or, I put the S in the wrong place in that sentence. But yeah, so this guy's been friends with Trump for a long time. He was very good friends with all of the creeps that ended up dying in prison, like Jean-Luc Brunel and also Epstein, of course, and John Casablancas, who was another, notorious creep. So he had this longtime girlfriend that he refused to marry because he wanted to kind of make sure that she wasn't a U.S. citizen so he could hold her citizenship over her head. And what ended up happening was she left him after many, many years. And he was very jealous, wanted custody of the kids. So he called ICE on her and got her deported. And now she is, I'm not sure if it's Peru. Where is she from? We'll find out. Because there's a couple of articles we could go through. But she's home now, or where she grew up anyway. Home is probably Miami for her. But yeah, so she's back where she grew up now, and she's, I guess, relatively safe for now. And she is calling out everybody, including Pam Bondi, in this tweet on her new profile that she just put up a day or two ago. She says, oh, it's Brazil? Okay, thank you. So she says, Pam Bondi, are you already aware of the situation? Do you fully understand the extent of the information I possess regarding you and the individuals associated with you? I strongly advise to consider the seriousness of these matters. Any actions taken against me or attempts to escalate this situation could have significant legal consequences. I expect this to be handled with the appropriate level of responsibility and professionalism moving forward. So it seems like something's happening here. This has to have something to do with what went down with Melania making the press conference. So she keeps on reposting this guy's video. Let's see what this guy has to say.
Protect Amanda
Okay, we'll do that one. Why not? It's the only thing on the
Ungaro.
page. It's
She
only a minute.
has First Lady Melania Trump running scared, and it appears that she might be the reason Melania came out with her press conference out of nowhere yesterday. Now, Melania has done this. All those replies that Amanda made to the FLOTUS 45 Melania Trump.
Yeah, she got a Twitter and she was leaving all of these replies on Melania Trump's Twitter saying, "I have nothing left to lose in my life. I will tear down the entire system. Be careful with me, bitch." And then she says, "I will tear down your corrupt system even if it's the last thing I do." And this guy's kind of blocking some of the
Trump's
rest of it.
account have been deleted. All of them gone. Now, we don't know if Amanda deleted them or if the FLOTUS account did, but you can take a guess. The internet is forever, and I've got them, and so do many others. But are we witnessing another major cover up? This brings more context into what Melania Trump said yesterday, and Amanda's ex and baby daddy, Paolo Zampalli, went on the Daily Mail and said that he is willing to testify before Congress, something the First Lady also said she would do and wants others to do. Now, Zampalli said he's willing to bring 50 other witnesses that were present at a party he hosted back in 1998 at the Kit Kat Club, where he says that he introduced Melania Trump to Donald Trump. So he says he can prove that with all these witnesses. But this begs the question, what does Amanda have? What are they afraid of her releasing? What does she have on all of them that they are so worried about? That has to be so bombshell that Melania Trump held an impromptu press conference without even notifying the president. This is major, guys. We'll see what happens here. Be sure to check back for updates, and I'll see you back here for the 411.
Yeah, so this is one of the only things she's got on her page right here, but let's check her replies. "Until you fall as a little chicken," she says. There she says, "I will tear down your corrupt system, even if it's the last thing I do in my life. I will go all the way. I am not afraid. Maybe you should be afraid of what I know, of who you are, and who your husband is." I mean, I don't know if she has already talked to a journalist and there is some kind of piece coming out that some journalist is putting together and asking for final comments on, and they asked Melania for a comment, and that's how she knew that something was going to be published. That's just an assumption based on how things have worked before. Because usually, when somebody tries to get out in front of things like this, it's because they've been contacted by a journalist who wants a comment, like their side of the story. Um, do you know what I think about you after 20 years? She's replying on a lot of this stuff. Yeah. Let's see what else is out there floating around. Here is the link and SS to the new interview. Oh, is this so she did an interview here. Is this paywalled? Let's see. Ooh, how can I translate this? Hold up. English. Did I do it? Yeah, here we go. I got it. A Brazilian who flew on a private plane with Epstein. There were about 30 girls very young. This is in a foreign news source. A former model recounts in an interview with the newspaper O Globo what she saw on a flight between Paris and New York in 2002. In the middle of Epstein's scandal and its thousands of derivatives, first-hand testimonies are scarce. This is why that of the Brazilian Amanda Ungaro is especially interesting and relevant. And then this goes into, yeah, when she was a 17-year-old teenager, another inspiring international runway career. She took a Paris, New York trip on Jeffrey Epstein's private plane, nicknamed a Lolita Express. There were about 30 other girls on the plane, she said. It seemed very strange to me. They seemed more like students than models. They didn't have the profile of the models. Many of them were between 14 and 16 years old, according to a Rio newspaper. Ungaro was on that flight with his agent, the Frenchman Jean-Luc Brunel, noted in as the pedophile scout in Brazil. The way this is phrased is weird because it's translated, so like the sentences are not like sentences I would typically read. It was 2002, and she had no idea who Epstein was. She had never heard of him or crossed paths. The Brazilian described some scenes she witnessed. So let's see. See what it gets into about if there's any kind of new information. We went through this one several times. See what these other or Globe. Oh, that was the one with the paywall. There was also emails that were saying that Paolo Zampoli was like a killer from Epstein's emails. So her husband had his Twitter account suspended. This is a statement that was sent to a journalist by João Anjaro, Amanda's husband. Amanda was indeed a model, but she was also a diplomat, and that is an important point to emphasize. Paulo's actions were not limited to ICE alone. The fraud charges brought against Amanda were instigated by prosecutor Stacy Cleveland and by that criminal corrupt detective Kenneth of the Aventura Police Department, who was actually decorated by Pam Bondi in 2019. They fabricated two anonymous tips and raided our home, our spa, and our MBA school, based solely on mere conjecture by this corrupt detective and the prosecutor. They leveled charges of fraud and of practicing medicine without a license. This was the first phase of the plan devised by the twisted Paolo Zampoli. He had been harassing us for quite some time, stalking Amanda on social media, posting photos of himself with her as if they were still together while simultaneously criticizing her and even sending the police to our home to check on our son. He is a son of a bitch. He destroyed our business in the United States and left us in a dire situation. Corruption is an abuse of power. Right now, he is offering money to Amanda and to the other woman he raped in an attempt to buy their silence. This needs to be exposed. And yeah, apparently there is another victim in the mix here. Which I have some information on that buried in here somewhere. Let's see. trying to find some of the other links I got because I got some doubles in here. Yeah, this was it. So 2023. So this was extremely recent. A police report was filed, but nothing happened to him because he likely attempted to use his diplomatic immunity, which he doesn't have, or bribes. Let's see what this information is. A man eventually came in and gave her a t-shirt and allowed her to leave, according. This was Becca Day's information. I think I have a video from her. Let me find it because that might explain it. She's been doing a lot of good research on this, let's say. This might be it. If it's not the old one.
Information for you guys.
No, that's the old one, yeah. I want to find the new one. Should have had that prepped a little bit better, but yeah, this isn't the new one, huh? Let's see. Oh, it's not paywalled. Nice. Is this, yeah, that's January, so that's not the new one. I saw a video from her. That was a new one. Sorry for the delay here. Let's watch this one real quick to give this intro, and then I'll figure this out.
For you guys about the Amanda Ungaro and Paulo Zampoli situation. If you're behind, watch the playlist that this video is attached to. So as we know, Paulo Zampoli is the former modeling agent who brought Melania to the United States for Donald Trump back in the 90s and has been in business with Donald Trump since the 90s. They did the whole modeling agencies together. They did the whole real estate world together. Paulo is a United Nations diplomat. He was a part of the first Trump administration, and he is very involved in the current administration. Right, okay, we've been talking about this guy since July. We know. As you guys know, I recently made contact with Amanda Ungaro, and we are now in communication on a regular basis. We know Amanda Ungaro is the mother of Paulo Zampoli's child, who he began grooming at the age of 15 years old. She was a victim of Jeffrey's operation. She was on Jeffrey's plane at just 16 years old. We knew that she was on Jeffrey's plane at 17 years old per the flight logs that were released by the DOJ in 2021. But since speaking to Amanda, she has confirmed that she was on Jeffrey's plane at the age of 16, earlier than we even realized. Amanda has known John Casablancas since she was 13 years old, and we know Paulo actually grew up with John Casablancas, and John Casablancas is the man who inspired Paulo to become a modeling agent. Amanda was a victim and witness to Jeffrey's operation. She has a lot of information about the inner workings of this operation. She was on Jeffrey's plane with Jean-Luc Brunel. She has a very unique perspective into this entire situation. And as we know and have been reporting on, in June of 2025, Amanda was wrongfully arrested and held in an ICE detention facility for nearly 4 months. After being held for that period of time, she was deported to Brazil without any kind of due process or trial. Amanda has a fantastic team of attorneys who are currently helping her get justice for her wrongful arrest, her wrongful deportation, and the parental kidnapping and alienation of the child that she shares with Paulo. Those are all ongoing proceedings, and on the 21st of this month, Amanda will testify in front of the Supreme Court of New York City. While acknowledging she has years of legal battles ahead of her, we hope that the 21st begins a series of wins for her and her future. With permission from Amanda's legal counsel, she has been given the permission to speak on a wide range of things that have happened to her and are currently happening to her. We can't talk about everything right now, but after some of the upcoming legal proceedings that she has, she will be able to say more. So I'm going to share with you some information that Amanda has given me permission and her legal team have given permission for me to share with you guys. What I'm about to share with you is Amanda's own words. So I'm going to be reading from a screen so I can make sure I say everything correctly. And if you guys want to read this stuff yourself and see receipts and everything like that, you can go over to my Substack. I've already laid it all out and it's published on my page. So I'm going to share this message from Amanda with you guys. And then after that, I'm going to go over a few different names of figures that Amanda has given me. These are figures who are aware of what's going on within our government and are assisting Paulo in his quest to silence and seek revenge against Amanda. Okay, from Amanda Ungaro, 1/18/2026. This is not family drama. This is a criminal operation. I have witnessed many things since I was a teenage girl who became swept up in this nightmare. I have photos to prove the physical abuse I have experienced at the hands of Paulo. I have proof of his longtime substance use issues. I have information and proof of his fraudulent business dealings and millions of dollars worth of insurance fraud that Paulo has committed. I have proof that me and my family have faced harassment, threats, and blackmail from Paulo for years. I have information and proof of government and public officials being bribed by Paulo. I have proof Paulo began trying to date me when I was 15 years old, and it is true that I was on Jeffrey Epstein's plane as a teenager. I was only 16 years old the first time I was put on his plane. I have proof Paulo abandoned his own mother in a nursing home in Italy after stealing her jewelry and other valuable items. If a man can rip away his own mother's dignity without a second thought,
Wow.
you can imagine what Paulo is capable of. I faced a false arrest based on manufactured charges. I was forced to stay in an ICE detention facility for months before I was deported to Brazil, where I have been fighting for justice. My paperwork and history of work for the United Nations did not stop the government from treating me like an animal. For 3 years before I was wrongfully arrested, I supported myself and my son without financial assistance from Paulo. In the years leading up to my arrest, Paulo and I did not have a romantic relationship, following an affair that he had in Washington, D.C. Paulo did call me his wife, and we were together for 19 years, but legally we were never married. During that time, Paulo was only a present father to fit his narrative and to appear to the public as a loving father. I did not keep our son away from him and allowed him to still see his father. I moved to Miami with my son to enter the workforce, really for the first time outside of my 10 years of work for the United Nations. My attempt to be independent and create distance between myself and Paulo enraged him, and everything got worse, especially when I filed for full custody. The court awarding me full custody would mean Paulo would have to pay years of unpaid child support and continue to financially support our son into adulthood. This was not something that fit Paulo's narrative, something he is desperate to control. I was being harassed relentlessly. My family and friends were harassed as well and even followed in some cases. Shortly after, I began working a job at a medical assistant training school that specializes in minimally invasive procedures. I was associated with a med spa in Miami. Many anonymous complaints began to flood in. The man that I was arrested with was my romantic partner at the time and is now my husband. He is an awarded plastic surgeon of 30 years who conducts teaching seminars across the world. 3 months before being arrested and booked in June, police showed up unannounced to our home. Police came into our home and took me and my partner out in handcuffs. We were thrown against the wall outside of our home, and neighbors began to come outside because of the police presence. They were shocked. We were shocked. Neither of us have a criminal record, yet we were handled with extreme force, humiliated, and made a spectacle out of. We were humiliated. We waited for an hour for the police to get a search warrant. They destroyed our home and found nothing. The officers then went to my workplace and were there for hours. They confiscated equipment properly approved.
Oh my God. She's tagging Taylor Swift also in her shit talk posts on Twitter to Melania.
Approved lasers by regulatory agencies, medical documents, and patient records. They did all this searching for evidence of criminal activity that simply did not exist. Then June came and my partner, now husband, and I were arrested. No one else from the training center or spa were arrested. I was picked up.
See, look at this. Melania, do not threaten me again. You have no idea what I know from the past 20 years. I have evidence, including documents and photos. I am not afraid. What happened to me, being detained for 4 months, will not be ignored. If this continues, I will take all necessary legal action. I don't know why she just, I agree. I think she should just do it, but I understand, like, there's probably a bunch of fear, but I don't know, like, if you're going to go this far. But yeah, she tagged Robert De Niro and Taylor Swift.
Into a detention center. No bail was possible. I felt so broken and confused. I remained imprisoned in that ICE detention center in Miami for 3.5 months, while increasingly absurd accusations were piled on and have yet to be proven. One of the charges placed against me included that I was practicing medicine illegally, which is an absurd lie that the state of Florida has yet to provide evidence to my legal team of. Nothing that my husband and I have been arrested for has been proven in court, yet I was deported without trial. I was not given the opportunity to prove that the charges against me were fabricated. My fate was decided before they put the handcuffs on me. When I arrived in Brazil, I began the legal process of fighting for custody of my son, and for a moment I was successful. Giovanni was brought to Brazil briefly after my deportation, per court orders, before Paulo illegally removed him from my care and the country, causing me to file a kidnapping complaint. I am still fighting for my son to be rightfully returned to my custody. So that is what Amanda has to share with you guys, what she has permission to share.
Yeah, like completely understandable that she doesn't want her kid around somebody like Paolo Zampoli.
With you guys right now. If you go over to part 2, we're going to go over some of the names who Amanda has given me as figures in our government who have helped assist Paula in having Amanda wrongfully deported and her son kidnapped from her.
And look, if you search her name today, it's coming up in all of this stuff. Who is Amanda Ungaro? What we know is Melania Trump speaks out. Who is Amanda Ungaro, and is she linked to Melania's Epstein denial? These are a lot of like small outlets though. But this Daily Beast is on it, and I think the Times as well. This is talking about how Paolo Zampoli claims to be the one to have introduced the two, which he probably did in coordination with Epstein. I do not know, because I don't know where part 2 is, because let's see if I can find her on, I found her on YouTube. But yeah, I was looking at her YouTube and I couldn't, I found this. I think this was the same thing we just listened to, but let's
So I have some new information for you.
Yeah, that was what we just listened to. So what came after that? A lot of this stuff is on TikTok and shit. And like, I noticed that both Becca Day and Jay Megan, who have really good research on this, they post more TikTok than YouTube. Yeah, maybe this is it.
For months now, we have been discussing how the Trump administration factually deported a victim and witness of Jeffrey's operation, who happens to share a child with a man named Paolo Zampoli, who is in our current administration. If you're not caught up on this story, I will be doing a very brief overview before we dive into the contents of this video and this article. You can get caught up going to my Substack, my YouTube, or my TikTok. As you guys know, I have recently connected with Amanda, and she has been able to share a lot of information with me and been given a range of topics that she is allowed to speak on by her legal team. What we're going to get into in this video today is Amanda's recollection of what it was like spending over 3.5 months in ICE detention. As someone who survived Jeffrey's operation and someone who has never been convicted of a crime in their life, I think it's very important to hear how women are being treated in these facilities. Before we jump into this, understand that everyone's attention spans are broken, and that's okay. So I will just very quickly whiz through some of the key facts to know about Amanda Ungaro and Paolo Zampoli. Paolo Zampoli is the Italian modeling agent and who is appearing
through that part because it's basically a review.
In photos from the Jeffrey files. Hello. Amanda Ungaro entered modeling as a young teenager. She met John Casablancas when she was just 13 years old, and then she would go on to meet Paolo Zampoli when she was about 15 years old, and that is when Paolo began grooming her. So she was in middle school and he was in his 30s. Eventually, Paolo Zampoli and Amanda Ungaro had a son together named Giovanni, and they are currently in a very messy custody battle surrounding Giovanni. Amanda and Paolo's romantic relationship lasted for about 19 years, beginning when Amanda was an underage teenager, and and unraveling whenever Paulos and Poli had an affair in Washington, D.C. during the first Trump administration, which he also was involved in. Paulo, a United Nations diplomat, got Amanda a job working as a United Nations ambassador for the Caribbean country of Grenada. She worked for a total of 10 years. Amanda eventually left Paulo due to his long-term infidelity, physical, emotional, sexual, and financial abuse. When she left, he began threatening, blackmailing, and harassing her relentlessly. Amanda rested under she has an incredibly unique perspective of how models were systematically groomed and abused for decades. And if you're curious as to why the House Oversight Committee has not touched the entire situation surrounding Paulos and Poli, I'm not going to jump to any conclusions, but I can think of a couple reasons, maybe 3 reasons at least, as to why it hasn't been touched. A couple of days ago, I was talking with Amanda and I asked her if she would be willing to answer a couple questions that I have about what her experience was like in ICE detention for over 100 days. She was more than willing to answer some questions and give some statements with approval from her attorney. So now what we're going to get into is like a Q&A style conversation between Amanda and I, where she is going to answer my questions in her own words. And if I am looking away, it's because I'm going to be reading from my screen to make sure I get all of what she said correct. Okay, so this interaction took place on January 25th of 2026. These statements have been approved to be released. So the first question that I asked Amanda was, overall, how did the ICE officers that you interacted with treat you? Amanda answered this question stating, they were rude and degrading always. They saw all of us the same and treated us like animals. The officers would scream insults at me and the other people I was detained with every single day. They were especially cruel during the night. Officers would yell at us to keep us awake. They would shine flashlights directly into our eyes when we would fall asleep. They didn't want anyone to sleep or rest, but when we were awake, they would just yell at us to shut up. Every move you make, they will find a problem with. They thought it was funny, the constant state of humiliation many of us were in. We would have to beg for toilet paper. We did not have access to basic hygiene on a regular basis. When we would be allowed to shower, we would be forced to dry our bodies with tiny washcloths instead of towels, simply to expose our bodies and humiliate us. Toilets didn't work most of the time and did not have a door. Everyone, including the officers, watched us use the toilets and shower. It was so embarrassing. They fed us like we were dogs and we never had clean drinking water. They rarely let anyone access the phones, and even when they did, they told us it cost money to use the phones. Many detainees couldn't afford
This shit's, I mean, I was somewhat familiar with most of this, but it's just every time it's just
to make calls even if given the opportunity to pay. This made communication with family and attorneys very hard. They mocked and humiliated us like it was part of their job description. The GEO correctional officers were also constantly mocking and yelling at us. They were the officers who operated the detention facility, the wardens. The second question that I asked Amanda was, what was the detention center or centers you were held in set up like? Were you only held at one or transferred multiple times? Amanda answered that question stating, they were set up different, but officers all acted the same. I was thankfully only transferred to 2 different detention centers during my almost...
Okay, hold up a minute. I got some info. It looks like she has taped an interview with a I guess it's a television place in Spain, El País, and it's going to be airing this weekend. So this is probably when the news is going to break. Sorry to interrupt. I'm going to look more into that real quick and play this again.
Custody. It was held in both the Broward Transitional Center and the Louisiana ICE Processing Center. In Miami, I was in a cell with 6 people. This is a photo from 2019 of the Broward Transitional Center, so you can kind of get an idea of what like their situation looks like. But Amanda has recalled that when she was there, they were not given sheets, towels, or pillows. They were just given like a dirty blanket to sleep with. Going back to Amanda's answer, she goes on to say, in Louisiana, we were held in a big warehouse with bunk beds. It was like a dungeon, all wet with water always leaking from somewhere onto the floor. I barely saw sunlight the entire time I was there. There were more than 100 women who were held in the warehouse at a time. We all had to shower together, use the toilets completely exposed. There was no privacy. Here are some photos from the GEO group's website showing what this Louisiana ICE Processing Center kind of looks like on the inside, so you can get an idea. Keep in mind, The people who run this facility are the ones who are posting these photos. This is what it might look like in best case scenario. And best case scenario looks pretty grim. Also, as a side note, the GEO group ran both of the ICE processing centers that Amanda stayed in, and they are a for-profit prison company. You can even go on their website and become an investor. It's very dystopian. The next question that I asked Amanda was, did you see any children at the facilities that you were held in? Amanda responded, I didn't see little babies, but girls around 15, 16, and 17 years old were there. They're still children. I saw women who needed medical assistance be put into wheelchairs by officers with their hands and feet shackled and left alone for hours. We learned to not ask for medical assistance if we needed it. Now, this next section, obviously, I'll put it on the screen so you can see her exact words, but I'm going to.
Yeah, that is one of the very serious things is they're just totally like not taking any kind of medical conditions seriously, and they're also putting people in conditions where medical situations are going to be more common.
We have to censor the language a little bit so this doesn't get taken down. Amanda goes on to say, there were pregnant women there. A woman who I was held with lost her baby while we were detained. She was in so much pain. She was badly. The officers ignored her. She lost her baby without medical assistance. It was a horrible situation. I saw it with my own eyes. I will never forget seeing that. It's not safe for pregnant women at any stage to not have access to a doctor, clean water, unspoiled food, and time to sleep. The stress and the manhandling alone we all faced would have been unbearable while pregnant. It was very scary because none of us knew when we were going to get out. Next question I asked Amanda was, did any of the ICE officers you interacted with at any point throughout your incarceration know you shared a child with someone in the administration? Amanda responded, I tried to tell a couple of the officers my situation at the beginning. I don't think they believed me. They didn't care what any of us had to say. They had no mercy for us. Next question I asked Amanda was, what was the most frightening part about your time in ICE detention? Amanda responded, I felt scared the whole time, especially at nighttime. The officers would routinely shine their flashlights directly into our faces when we would fall asleep and yell in our faces. Night was also scary because that's when the officers would conduct transfers. It was common to see mothers, daughters, sisters, grandmothers, and other family members be booked in together, but they would never be together for long. The officers always separated families in the middle of the night. I will never forget what nighttime sounded like for months. The officers screaming and yelling, women crying out for mercy. I will never forget the sound. They would pull us out of our cells day and night to search us. I don't know why they did this so much. All we had were the dirty blankets they gave us to sleep with. After working for the United Nations for 10 years, I have an understanding of the importance of respecting international law. I know humiliation, inhumane treatment, intentional cruelty, and psychological abuse can be seen as forms of.
Yeah, like this woman was a diplomat, and so now that she has been exposed to all this stuff, she probably still has connections that she made like during that time in that role. I mean, her and Zimpali both got in there obviously because they were in Trump's Epstein circle, but at the same time, I feel like she's dangerous for them with this information because of the fact that um she has the knowledge that she does on how to make this kind of stuff public and the kind of levers that need to be pulled with media and things like that as well. Like she's already got this big interview. um
of torture under international law. It was very scary to know that the officers didn't have to follow the law, yet we were being treated like criminals, even though many of us had never broken a law. Next question that I asked Amanda was, were you able to get in touch with anyone from the United Nations or Washington, D.C. while you were incarcerated to alert them to what was happening? Amanda responded, yes. My family informed one of my friends who works in Washington, D.C., who I will not name at this time, that I was in a detention center and awaiting deportation. This person has a direct line to Melania Trump. I met Melania for the first time when I was 18 years old on Donald Trump's plane traveling from Miami to New York City. Paulo and I had been officially in a relationship for a little while at the time we met. When I was with Paulo, I spoke with Melania many times at White House events and parties. She and Paulo are close, and Paulo has many associates within the Slovakian government, the country where Melania is from. Despite that, I believed for a moment that
so Paulo Zampoli has turned off comments on all of his posts now. No, he can't comment on anything. Kind of wild. finish this out real quick.
Melania had known me since I was just a teenager. If she heard the situation that I was in, she would have compassion and do something to help me. I was wrong. My friend in DC informed my family that Melania did not want to help. Next question that I asked Amanda was, can you tell me a little bit about your actual deportation? Amanda responded stating it, the deportation process was complete chaos. We were all shackled by our feet and hands for the entire flight, and the whole time we were on the buses that brought us to the airplane. We sat shackled in the buses in the dark for at least 7 hours before even getting on the airplane. Both men and women packed in shoulder to shoulder in the buses and on the flight. We could hardly move. It was awful. We rarely were allowed to shower for the months we were detained, and the smell was terrible. We were all so dirty. When I arrived in Brazil, they left me with nothing. I had no phone, no money, no identification, no credit card, and no clothes other than the clothes they gave all detainees to wear. I left Brazil over 20 years ago to follow my dreams to become a model. I was swept into a nightmare of terrible men, including the father of my child, Paulo Zampoli. My punishment for breaking free from Paulo and his cycle of abuse.
Yeah, we have covered this multiple times, but the fact that she has an interview coming out this weekend, I think, is the thing.
Came with the full weight of the United States.
The thing that made Melania freak out, because I bet she was asked for a comment for whatever's being published around that
government, and that is wrong. I left Brazil with dreams, and I returned to Brazil stripped of everything, even my dignity. They did not understand that when they took everything away from me, including my child, I had nothing else to lose, and that gave me the strength to fight. And that's why I'm speaking now, and I will not stop speaking. There is a clear...
So yeah, I did find the name of the other victim of Paulo Zampoli, and it's apparently Victoria Drake. I see this article here. No. This is back a day from two days ago.
Okay, guys, I found something absolutely crazy, and I apologize. I'm still a little bit congested. Obviously, the video I posted yesterday, I filmed it before I got sick, and now I'm getting better. But I found something crazy, and I have to show it to you guys. Like, this cannot wait. So I was looking at old videos of Paulo Zampoli, enemy of the channel, you know, the modeling agent who brought Melania to the United States, who now works in our current administration and used groomed by Paulo at 15 and was on Jeffrey's plane. Like, oh my gosh, I know exactly who this girl is in this video with Paulo, advertising his real estate / modeling company. The girl in that video is Svetlana or Lana Posidevia, and I may be pronouncing her last name wrong. And Lana recruited for Jeffrey and worked for Jeffrey for many, many years. She also has ties to the Russian government. Jeffrey was funding a company that she started, a women's empowerment company that she started. Like, there's a lot to this woman and all of her connections. We've spoken about her briefly a couple of times. She recently spoke out in an interview and explained how she was a victim of Jeffrey while also admitting to recruiting for Jeffrey. She also did try to downplay her ties to the Russian government, which is expected. I think it's important to note that she was in her mid...
I'm fast forwarding because she repeats the same exact thing and gets people up to date for like people who are just hearing the story for the first time. So like, I don't want the same information constantly repeating on this stream because it would be boring.
20s when she began working and recruiting for Jeffrey. She was not a part of Jeffrey's circle before she was an adult. And I think you guys, like, who have been here for a while understand that, like, there's a lot of nuance when it comes to some of the women who recruited and worked for Jeffrey. Like, for example, Nadia Marzinkova, she became a victim of Jeffrey while she was a child and then went on to become a perpetrator herself, recruiting and engaging with girls who were not of age. We can acknowledge and empathize that she was a victim of Jeffrey and that never should have happened to her. But at the exact same time, it doesn't take away the harm that they did towards other little girls as an adult. For me personally, I have a lot harder of a time understanding and empathizing with the women who were in Jeffrey's orbit who became a part of his circle as adults, knowing the crimes that he had committed and being quickly made aware of his vices. And I'm not saying like the women who were adults and began working for Jeffrey were not manipulated or they were not harmed themselves by Jeffrey. Nearly every woman and girl who came into Jeffrey's orbit was either harmed or manipulated by him. In this situation specifically with Lana, I think that her overall lack of remorse for her role in recruiting is very telling to me. And I will say, and this is just my opinion, the timing of Lana coming forward to, for the first time, say that she's a victim of Jeffrey is very interesting to me with the timing of the Bank of America settlement that will soon be paid out to specifically the victims of Jeffrey. But I sent these findings over to Amanda. As you guys know, I've been in active communication with Amanda since January, and she confirmed that the girl in this video is indeed Svetlana Posodevia, and Amanda knew her through the man that she was dating who appears in this video. The man is Charles Riva. He is a close friend of Paolo Zampoli, and according to Amanda, was dating Lana at this time. And this video was probably filmed about 2009, 2010. Here's a photo of Charles Riva at Paolo's home in 2015, the same home where another one of Jeffrey's recruiters was partying at in 2015. And what do you know? Charles Riva's name appears multiple times in Jeffrey's emails. He seems to be very involved with like the art scene in New York City. So things just keep stacking up against Paolo Zampoli. And I understand that Congress is on vacation right now or whatever, but like this is getting a little outrageous. I don't know if we're not understanding like the smoking gun that is right here. I don't know if we're not understanding that this man is not someone who has been trained to only use language when speaking that will protect him and his associates. This is not Bill Clinton. This is not Bill Gates. This is not Jeffrey's lawyers who are trained to speak in a certain way to not implicate themselves. Paolo Zampoli is a career modeling agent and an international rush hourer. He is going to crack under pressure, but until the pressure is placed on him, he will continue doing whatever he wants. Right now, he's on a trip with the Vice President of the United States, traveling on our taxpayer dime. You know, it's really funny. On this same trip, Paolo was actively harassing his victims, trying to silence them and settle for money so that they will stop sharing their story and stop talking to journalists. He is actively trying to pay and silence his victims while he is on a trip with the vice president. The oversight committee has acknowledged Paolo Zampoli and are aware of what he has done. And so far, zero action has been taken. We need more than a tweet.
Yeah, so with that is crazy as hell. With Sasha, there was like an interview that was supposed to come out. He was interviewed by MS Now, and then they never published it. And there were some issues with that. There was nothing new there from what I saw. And then the same thing happened when Sasha was supposed to speak in front of Congress as well. Yeah, that was just like, I think 2 weeks ago or something like that, that happened. But yeah, so this was 2 days ago that she posted. This was one of her most recent TikToks. I don't think she has any others. Okay, she got another one here. Pussies. Count the first one. So yeah, I guess.
Okay, so you guys know how like 2 nights ago we were able to identify Svetlana Posodevia, a recruiter who
I'll just keep it rolling because she's got some good information on this.
Worked for Jeffrey and a man that she was allegedly dating at the time named Charles Riva in an old video that was uploaded to Paolo Zampoli's YouTube channel back in 2010. And this video was like an advertisement of sorts for Paolo's modeling / real estate business that he was operating. If you haven't watched that video, go watch it and come back so that this new piece of the puzzle makes sense to you. It'll be linked in the caption. In that video from a couple of days ago, we were able to learn that Charles Riva is a close friend of Paolo Zampoli, and Charles Riva also appears in the files. I believe it was 2014, Jeffrey had Charles Riva on his calendar to have lunch with him. We also saw photos of Charles Riva in Paolo Zampoli's home in 2015. And upon doing further digging, I found a photo of Paolo Zampoli and Charles Riva together on Charles Riva's social media. I believe it was 2017. So all of these people, Charles Riva, Svetlana, Paolo Zampoli, and Jeffrey, are all connected. Doing further research, I realized that Charles Riva has a very close connection to Jeffrey, even closer than the fact that he was allegedly dating one of Jeffrey's recruiters, Svetlana Posodavia. See, Charles Revis' current partner, I don't know if it's his wife or his girlfriend, but it appears they've been in a romantic relationship for a while together and are raising 2 children together. Charles Revis' romantic partner is a woman named Alina Boyko, and she is a model from Ukraine. I did a little bit of digging into Alina's portfolio and her work as a model, and I came across an article from a Lithuanian media site that was published about Alina back in February. In this article, Alina Boyko shared that she herself was a victim of Jeffrey and became a victim of him back in 2006 when she was just 15 years old. In this article with this Lithuanian media site, she also shared that she was a contestant in the 2010 Miss Universe Ukraine, which was at the time owned by Donald Trump. While looking at Alina's name in the files, I learned that there are multiple girls named Alina who were victimized by Jeffrey. Some of them have different last names. Some of them there is no last name listed. So it is very challenging to decipher which ones are Alina Boyko or a different Alina. But it is worth noting that we can confirm from the files that Alina Boyko was at some point named a beneficiary alongside Jennifer Kalin, the woman who dated Kimball Musk, Elon Musk's brother, in Jeffrey's Butterfly Trust. So even without being able to fully decipher and dissect and confirm and identify which...
It's crazy how connected all these people are to this network.
Alina is being talked about in Jeffrey's emails, we can absolutely confirm that she was in Jeffrey's circle and was placed as a beneficiary in the Butterfly Trust. And according to the Lithuanian media outlet that Alina spoke with, she was a victim of Jeffrey all the way from 2006 to 2014, and then somehow went on to have a romantic relationship and grow a family with a friend of Paolo Zampoli and an associate of Jeffrey, who was pictured alongside Lana Posodavia, a recruiter for Jeffrey on Paolo Poli's YouTube channel in 2010.
Yeah, it's interesting how all these guys ended up married to women that were seemingly trafficked by Jeffrey Epstein.
I don't have the information to say whether or not Alina Boyko was recruiting girls for Jeffrey or not, because we can't get like a very clear picture from the emails at this moment. She's certainly not one of the names that has reemerged over and over as a named recruiter of Jeffrey. But do we see this trend that's like reoccurring with Paolo Zampoli and models? Like, think about it. Amanda Ungaro began being groomed at the age of 15 by Paolo Zampoli. She was on Jeffrey's plane by 16 alongside Jean-Luc Brunel, her first modeling agent. And by the time she was 18 years old, she had already began a romantic relationship with Paolo Zampoli and was meeting Donald Trump and Melania on Donald Trump's plane. Alina Boyko was a victim of Jeffrey beginning at the age of 15. She was a part of a Donald Trump-owned pageant in 2010. She is currently in a relationship with a close friend of Paolo Zampoli and a man whose name appears in the file, Charles Riva, Svetlana Posodavia, a model turned recruiter for Jeffrey, who appears in a YouTube video on Paolo Zampoli's channel back in 2010. Petra Nemkova started out as a very close friend of Donald Trump and Melania and would go on to be pictured in the late 2000s in Jeffrey's home and then pictured with Jeffrey. She continued to stay in contact and emailed Jeffrey back and forth for many, many years. And in 2016, she was seen at a party in Paolo Zampoli's home. Adriana Musinska started out as a model for Paolo's ID Models, working alongside Amanda Ungaro, then began working for Paolo Zampoli's friend, Michelle Adam, at Fashion TV, where she worked with photographer Antoine Verglas, the photographer for Victoria's Secret, who was emailing Jeffrey about scopolamine. And eventually, the pipeline led Adriana Musinska to becoming a recruiter for Jeffrey and a part of his core four. Kira Diktyar, a model who started as a victim and became a recruiter for Jeffrey, and then went on to be pictured at a party at Paolo Zampoli's home in 2015. Like, do we see the pattern? And this is just a small corner of this network. But these women are all evidence of how this bizarre pipeline and network actually operates.
Wow, yeah, those are some. I can't even imagine what's going to come out on this interview this weekend. We're going to have to keep an eye on it. Maybe watch it tomorrow. If it comes out tomorrow, I'll do a stream for it. Somebody writes an unknown sender to Jeffrey Epstein. Killers. Prokhorov and Bybkov, plus his people. Zampoli Paolo, Anna and all people who work for them. Prokhorov has a lot to hide. And then Epstein just responds, "Are you receiving things from my address?" Kind of weird. See if I had anything else in there. I want to search. Yep, that's been searched a lot. Spanish interview. I guess we'll have to look at that. I guess we'll have to wait for that tomorrow. But you know, I saw something kind of crazy today related to just this whole situation where these old ass men, or you know, middle-aged men, are trying to, you know, groom these underage girls. There have been people on the news like today saying that it's a bad thing that teen pregnancy numbers have went down. Not just that, Stephen Miller's wife had made a massive post saying the same thing, essentially. Take a look at this.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We still have 3.6 million births a year, but the problem is teens and young adults. From ages 15 to 19, the fertility rate is down 7%, and it's down 70% over the last 2 decades, meaning we're.
Why you need to talk about the fertility rates of underage people is beyond me. Like, you should call it something different, maybe.
Telling people that are young not to have babies, to wait till they're in a more stable life situation, till they're more financially secure. Maybe they haven't found the right partner. To you,
did you hear that?
decades,
Hold up.
meaning we're telling.
He said, we're telling kids these bad things, like they need to wait until they meet the right person or they're financially stable.
Decades, meaning we're telling people that are young not to have babies, to wait till they're in a more stable life situation, till they're more financially secure. Maybe they haven't found the right partner. To you.
So that's insane. And I thought that this was just a fluke, like just a one-off, like, you know, it's some crazy dude. But no, because Steve Miller and his wife are also crazy. But the fact that this is coming from multiple angles tells me that, like, they're trying to push some kind of narrative. Like, this has been discussed and decided somewhere that these are going out. Katie Miller, this is Steve Miller's wife, says America is in a full-scale birth rate collapse. Its crisis is fueled by delaying motherhood, toxic career-first culture, and the lie published by legacy media and feminists that kids are a burden. The fertility rate is down 25% from 2007 levels. And she says, teen births have crashed 81% since 1991. I remember that being like good news. Like, with another 7% drop in 2025, it remains stuck at 1.6, well below the 2.1 replacement level. The collapse is an existential threat to humanity. She is saying that the fact that teens aren't having kids is an existential threat to humanity. That is insane. These people, I outrageous. You know, while we're on the topic of I don't know, the like sexual assaulters. Eric Swalwell, who's running for governor of California, has been accused of sexual assault by a former staffer. And I'm from what I've heard, it's like 5 different former staffers. According to the San Francisco Chronicle, a woman who says she had sexual encounters with the congressman while she worked for him claims he sexually assaulted her twice when she was too intoxicated to give consent. Yeah, the word is rapist for this. Swalwell called the allegations false and threatened legal action in a statement on Friday, saying, "For nearly 20 years, I have served the public as a prosecutor and a congressman and have always protected women." I mean, I think that there's different types of conservatives, Joe. I think that there are conservatives that don't want their you know, they don't want to see businesses regulated, they don't want to be taxed. They like their guns, whatever. That I think is a different type of conservative than this ultra culturally conservative, traditional minded, men are this way, women are this way, everybody needs to be in their place kind of shit. Um, I think that that's a whole different mindset, and that's usually what I'm referring to when I'm talking about. Um, but yeah, I should definitely be more specific with my words because what I am speaking about is this movement that has taken form that's like built on this like um i- in many ways like male chauvinism and bioessentialism in general. um but yeah, and of course there's overlap from those two different types of conservatives, but that is the thing that I'm referring to. So that's, see if they got any more information on that. Because that TMZ article was not great. Yeah, CNN has a little bit more information. 4 women described sexual misconduct by Rep. Eric Swalwell, including a former staffer who says he raped her. Yeah, I mean the Democratic Party is very very corrupt by corporations and donors, and there is a battle right now of if they are going to allow any kind of change. But they may all get voted out anyway, possibly because it does seem like there is some kind of tide shifting there. But I have I've never really been happy with. I mean, there's only like 2 or 3, maybe 4 Democrats that are actually progressive. The rest of them I would consider conservative. One woman who connected online with Swalwell over her interest in Democratic politics says she ended up extremely drunk inside his hotel room after a night out with the congressman. With little memory of what occurred earlier in the night at the bar, he kissed her and touched her leg without consent, she said. Another woman who described receiving unsolicited nude messages from Swalwell was social media creator Ali Semerko. Apparently, he sent a bunch of like he would send happy birthday to like all these different women on Twitter. But yeah, the other story I wanted to talk about was this OpenAI Molotov attack and all this kind of stuff that's happening like this. And look at this though. San Francisco police this morning have arrested a young suspect accused of tossing a Molotov cocktail at the home. Police recognized the person in this photo and nabbed him. So, like, is this guy like a lookalike? Yeah, no, Hakeem and Schumer need to go. Well, the Dongo, did you see the video I just put out about the difference between a leftist and a liberal? You might enjoy it. Let's see. In a department-wide email, San Francisco police officers were this morning sent a photo of a young male arson suspect accused of tossing a Molotov cocktail at the Russian Hill home of OpenAI CEO Sam Altman. He also allegedly threatened to burn down OpenAI's Mission Bay headquarters. Yeah, you might enjoy it, Dodongo. It's right on that subject. So this is a day after somebody burned down a warehouse. Apparently, another warehouse is burning down in Queens right now. I'm not sure if it's just a coincidence. Um, and in the same town where the person burned the toilet paper factory yesterday, or the toilet paper warehouse, somebody set fire to the True Religion store in the local mall. I'll pull that up in a minute. Um, But this is apparent. This looks like Sam Altman. That's the funny thing about this shit. Yeah, like I kind of got into this little rant last night about how people are, yeah, Bad Religion's a good band. I remember them. Um People are getting increasingly desperate, and like today I saw a situation where a cop got shot trying to evict somebody. And you know, I think I think we are going to see more of that kind of stuff as things get desperate. As people continue to get increasingly desperate and they have nothing to lose. I think that's the thing that's often found in these situations. Um the thing about this story though is like this guy probably has a massive wall around his house, you know what I mean? Like this guy had to have a hell of an arm to hit his house from the road because, and maybe I'm overthinking how these billionaires live, but I've read stories about them buying up the neighbors' houses just to demolish them just so they could have a buffer zone. So, um officers recognized the person from the photo. 20-year-old man. He was charged with attempted murder and the explosion of a destructive device with intent to injure. Murder seems a little bit much. But there's a lot, and Sam Altman published something today saying that it was a scary thing, and it was a really bad experience for him and his family, and he like shared a picture of his kid and stuff. But he also blamed negative coverage that he's been getting. He kind of underhandedly blamed Ronan Farrow for doing investigative journalism on him and his company, and some of the issues that even high level employees have had there. So, you know, it's yeah, he's trying to. It might be, yeah, because he's trying to really say that his critics are creating this problem and creating a negative situation or a dangerous situation for him and his family. That's what he has to say anyway. And related to that, they're trying to do the Amazon thing of buying all of these tech media companies. Oh yeah, of course the story about his sister too. Um like that's an old story though. That's been around for like 2 years. She's been she first came out with the accusations against him 2 years ago, and I think finally just a couple weeks ago, or just maybe 1 week ago, they allowed her lawsuit to pass. So she has an active lawsuit against him now. Freedom of the press, A.G. Liebling famously wrote, is guaranteed only to those who own one. This pithy observation from one of the pithy observation. Let's see what we got. Given that OpenAI just took 110 billion of new funding, valuing the company at some 840 billion, a couple $100 million is more than less of a rounding error. So they spent $250 million or what? Doesn't say. Figure likely. So yeah. Oh, wow. It's the same amount that roughly the same amount that Jeff Bezos paid for the Washington Post. They paid for Technology Business Programming Network, which is a tech media outlet that I've never heard of before. But they do have around 500,000 views on a weekday. That's damn good. That's crazy. Yeah, something up with that. For sure. What else I got? Oh, I got some more stuff on the war cover-ups. So this is apparently a whistleblower soldier that talked to CBS of all places. That I just saw that this was from CBS. I didn't know that when I didn't notice that when I saved the article, because a lot of times I'll go through quick and I'll be like, let's fact check this on the stream. This leaves me with pause. Are they still doing journalism over there? Do they want this to get out? They're throwing Hegseth under the bus here. Let's take a listen to what this soldier that was involved in one of these botched missions in Iran had to say.
It's something like what you see in the movies. Everything, your ears are ringing. There's dust and smoke everywhere.
This soldier was part of a crew of about 60 troops stationed at the military post in Kuwait hit by the strike. He says his unit's leadership ordered them there despite intelligence showing it was a potential drone target.
We moved closer to Iran, to a deeply unsafe area that was a known target.
So what was the reason that you were told for why you needed to be there?
I don't think there was a good reason ever articulated.
The attack killed 6 American soldiers and injured dozens more. Were these deaths preventable?
In my opinion, absolutely yes.
The next day, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth called the Iranian drone a squirter that got through the Army's air defenses.
It happened to hit a tactical operations center that
A what? What did he call it?
that was fortified, but these are powerful weapons.
What fortifications
My ears might need to be checked.
existed there?
I would put it in the none category from a drone defense capability.
None. There were no fortifications.
None.
A Pentagon spokesperson declined comments citing an active investigation. Regarding the drone attack, though, the department has said consistently all safety measures were taken to safeguard the troops. But, Tony, as we've reported before, those troops, the injured ones, they're dealing with a lot of physical wounds, not to mention their emotional scars.
Yeah, so also I got some more on this pilot rescue. So as you may know, I haven't put out a video on it yet, but I probably should, because I have some clips from our previous streams. This whole pilot rescue was never a pilot rescue. It was an attempt to steal the uranium that failed. What did I save this for? If you've been following the pilot rescue and rumored failed operation mission in Iran, this military insider definitely knows what happened. He was the first and only person to report the rescue, disappeared for 4.5 hours, and finally updated. He had live on the ground info. Got a wheel stuck in the sand at the FARP on the Delta element. And then I saved this. What? Oh, wait. Oh, they do. That's amazing. They do closed captions. So I know it's actually the legit closed captions, because sometimes people will put fake closed captions for things in other languages to try to trick people. So let's see what he says. So the conclusion is that the mission, from the very moment the planes landed, had already encountered massive problems. Now the rescue operation is highly suspicious because the people they were supposed to rescue still haven't shown up. But regardless, the amount of money spent is significant. Yeah, that's a good point, because you know how, like, they parade everybody out there in front of the media that is related to anything, but they're not putting this person in front of the cameras. They're not putting any of these people to say, look at our heroes. That, you know, it's kind of weird. Even excluding the A-10s and Blackhawks from earlier, just these two special variant C-130s alone. Yeah, these are airplanes that carry trucks and shit. Super expensive. Cost over $200 million, plus a few little bird helicopters. The overall production cost of this is significantly higher than Tom Cruise's Top Gun 2. I wonder if they'll be able to recoup their costs. Yeah, I'm going to put out a full video on that, I think, because that's definitely an interesting case there. And I don't think any mainstream media has really questioned the pilot story, but I've been seeing it all over different social media and YouTube and stuff like that. A lot of and a lot of experts, and just Iran in general, is saying that they tried to steal our uranium that night and we shot at them and they ran away. So look at this. It looks like they got the guy who did it right there. This is literally the same town where somebody just set a factory or a warehouse on fire yesterday.
The Uniqlo entrance, so I literally walked by, I saw the fire. Like, I was like, oh, what?
I don't think I've been to Ontario Mills for over 15
They had to close the mall.
years, maybe. And now there's fires in the mall. I was over by Nordstrom, there was a fire. Now it looks like there's some kind of fire over here. Police, helicopters. I got out just in the nick of time, I guess. I don't know what's going on. Holy cow.
Hot deals. Yeah, like, that's crazy. And then they had to, like, block people out of there, and it spread to the Nordstrom. Like, what are we going to find out about this one? What is going on with these people with the fires? I don't know if they're related, but it's bizarre that it was in the same town, for sure. Very, very weird there. And this one, I've been holding this one back for a couple days because other things kept on popping up. But this is a very important article from Ken Klippenstein. And this is talking about the FBI's new political pre-crime center. So this is basically like if you have beliefs that are not MAGA, essentially, then you are in their crosshairs, and they're collecting information about you to put you on a list. President Trump's budget request to Congress contains the largest counterterrorism spending increase in years, and buried inside it is a new FBI-led center dedicated to proactively hunting Americans that the government classifies as so-called domestic terrorists. The new center and funding boost represent the implementation of Trump's National Security Presidential Memorandum 7, NSPM 7, the sweeping federal order I've been covering since it was signed last September. Though public oppositions to ICE succeeded at forcing the administration to back down in Minnesota, even firing both Kristi Noem and Greg Bovino, the FBI is doubling down its domestic terrorism obsession. And this is what they consider domestic terrorism: anti-Americanism, which is, anti-American hegemony, which is you don't want America to have an empire around the world, which is, pretty much everybody nowadays. Now that, I think now that people realize that they don't benefit from it a whole lot, they're starting to get pissed off of it. But not enough people are mad about it for the humanitarian reasons, in my opinion. Anti-capitalism, anti-Christianity, support for the overthrow of the U.S. government. That could just mean wanting a different kind of government. Extremism on migration. This is that you think immigrants are human. Extremism on race probably means you're anti-racist. Extremism on gender, which means that you don't have a traditional mindset on gender. Hostility towards those who hold traditional American views on family. So this is like, it's usually people who hold these traditional American views that are the ones who are being hostile to people who don't. And this is the way that I make this comparison. Those people who are always like, I wish we still wore suits and stuff like that around. And it's like, you can wear. I used to know a guy who did that shit. He used to just roll up to the club in a suit all the time. People can still do that, but everybody doesn't do that. So then you don't feel, I got lost. Oh yeah. So you don't feel like it's like the normal, quote unquote normal, which I think is like a non-existent thing. That's kind of the issue. Hostility towards people who hold traditional views on morality. So this is like, anybody that's trying to break out of a box. And you can still have a traditional American nobody is stopping you from having a nuclear family. That isn't a thing. You know what I mean? And these people are like, they're attacking our way of life by not adopting it. And it's like, your way of life does not have to be everybody else's way of life. That is the thing. But yeah, before let's jump back into this. In other words, if your political views are practically anything other than MAGA, you're on notice, courtesy of the FBI. The new center combats these supposed threats by integrating intelligence, operational support, and financial analysis, the budget request says. Its creation appears to be inspired by the murder of conservative commentator Charlie Kirk, an event that reportedly precipitated the formulation of NSPM 7 in the first place, according to the budget request, which also which alludes to heinous assassinations having dramatically increased. The budget request also singles out social media as some kind of breeding ground for domestic terrorism. Yeah, so this is definitely concerning. I think that the situation that the Trump administration is in right now, where they are in some ways backed against the wall and facing all these different problems, I think that could go either way with this situation. Like, it could be they got too much going on to worry about locking people up for social media posts. But it could also be a situation where they are backed into a wall and lash out more. And one of the ways that they do that is to send ICE to different cities and lock up activists. And this might sound crazy to some people, but I don't think it should be out of the realm of possibility with these documents and with the way that things have been going. I think that Ken Klippenstein does a lot of good work. I mean, I don't always agree with his politics, like, as far as, like, he's very dismissive towards, like, conspiracy stuff a lot. I generally hold his politics, I think, on economic and social stuff, but I think he does tend to be a bit dismissive of conspiracies. But I don't think that has anything to do with his leaks and his research. Like, he's publishing documents for the most part and just giving his analysis on the documents. So so it's not really like, you could question his commentary. Yeah, I mean, you could definitely question his commentary, and sometimes he has bad takes on Twitter, but he comes through with the documents. And that's the kind of thing, like, right here, this is the doc. Domestic terrorists exploit a variety of social media platforms. A lot. Taylor Lorenz is quite controversial. I don't really have an issue with her. I think she does some good stuff, but I think I think she fights back way too aggressively to the people who disagree with her, and instead of just doing her work and doing her thing. No, she's very progressive. A lot of people don't like her because she's very, like, she's very big on, like, masking still and stuff like that. And that's one of the things that typically gets Twitter in an uproar and stuff. But she also has a medical condition, I believe, which has her focused on that. But she's another one that has done some good. She has done some really good work too, though. She's the one who exposed that whole dark money thing with the Democrats a couple months ago. Which a lot of people didn't expect from her because she's like a progressive activist. But she definitely, it was, what was it called? Chorus. That was the group. Yeah, exactly. Chorus. So yeah, I don't have an issue with her, but I do think that she fights back way too hard. And there's a lot of creators that do that, and I know that it's like, it is kind of it's tempting, and you want to get on there and fight with people, but I think it's never the right way to do it. Like, I get shitty with people sometimes, but it's usually the situation calls for it, And I think that yeah, I think that certain people it's just best to not engage with. No, Chorus is not APAC, but I'm pretty sure that APAC probably has something to do with their funding, because their funding comes from multiple different places. It's very similar to some of the I wouldn't say Heritage Foundation is a one-to-one equivalent on the right, but it's a similar kind of situation where you have money being pulled from various different places. Well, we're still, yeah, that's still an argument. The dark money situation. I mean, that was just a thing today. There was I actually think I had a link about that. There was the dark money vote that was was voted against, and even Bernie Sanders was he was calling for it. He was saying that it should pass, but other people voted against it. And that one wasn't just related to APAC. It was like all the news said it was APAC specific, but it was dark money in general, and it just would have affected APAC. And then there was this other protest at the DNC today where all these people were standing up and shouting about, oh, yes. Why are you afraid of it? They're refusing to release the information on why they lost the election, which is obviously like being pro-war and trying to go to the center instead of actually, advocating for progressive policies and shit. APAC, are you afraid of the voters? Tell us what happened in 2024. Why are you dropping bombs on babies? Let us know. Let us know. Release the autopsy report, Ted Martin. What are you hiding? What are you hiding? And I'm guessing these might be delegates since they're, in the room here, unless they're just, spectators. But yeah, I think there's it's an interesting time. I'm curious to see how this whole thing develops. And, if they could capture the Republican Party and pull it in that direction, then like, hey, if somebody can wrestle control of this party and do something okay, I wouldn't be against it. I'm not going to campaign for anybody because I don't play like that, but I would not be I would not be upset to see that, especially if it led to an ending of the wars and some money going into actually things that would be good. Yeah, I mean that they really twisted that one guy up. See if I got anything else on here. Check my links real quick. Apparently there's a protest outside of the Capitol tonight as well, like an anti-war protest. Status Coup was covering it. Let's see if they're still there. No, not live. Let me see if see if I can find a video. Oh no. Okay, so hold up. I found this video. I don't know if it's
Democrats Democratic Party, we know it's on your own. Remember Hiroshima, remember Vietnam. Democratic Party, we know which side you're on. Remember Hiroshima.
This is being advertised or like being sold as tonight, but I don't know if it actually is tonight because I don't trust that account. But this I saw this and I don't like it. I do not like this. It says young dancers performed a protest dance aimed at President Trump and Jeffrey Epstein. I don't like this like interpretive dance like activism thing. It seems like very, very cringe. I know that who said it? Was it I don't want to get it wrong. Yeah, Emma Goldman said she said something like, if your revolution doesn't have dancing, I don't want to be there. But I think I've changed my mind about this quote. Yeah, the famous quote, if I can't dance, I don't want to be part of the revolution. And I think we need to revise that quote. I think it's time to rethink and revisit this quote in light of do you remember the Renee Good one, right? Like they keep on doing this. I don't know why they do this, but they keep on doing this and I don't like it.
That pretty little sparrow.
Like I just feel like I don't know what this helps, you know what I'm saying? Like, what is going on here? Like, come on now. Like, yeah, we need the permanent separation of dance and activism. I'm sorry to Emma Goldman, but she would agree if she would have lived to see this. She would say, I don't want dancing in my revolution. Weird, man. Where are we at? Where are we at as a country? You know? Meanwhile, Ireland is shutting it down. I think let's see what's up with Ireland, because apparently Ireland's going crazy tonight. Yeah, I don't get it. And I don't think it's a good thing to do.
Yes, Ray, there's a very big protest taking here tonight at Galway Harbour. The numbers have swelled significantly. There are hundreds of people here, and they say they are not going away. The impact of the fuel...
Let theater kids be theater kids. Okay, that's fair. That's a fair argument. I'll accept that.
Blockades across the west of Ireland is really taking effect now. There's no diesel in Achill, no fuel in Balmullet, queues in Erris, queuing for fuel, and in Galway, places like Salthill, Athenry, Turlockmore, Casla in Connemara. All of these forecourts have very, very low levels of fuel. Some have completely dried up. And tonight, Ray, that all comes against news I've received from a source in the energy industry to say that there's a tanker off the coast of Kerry tonight coming from Antwerp and expected to dock at Galway Harbour, tide dependent, at around 8 a.m. tomorrow morning. Now that tanker will get here but will not be able to land and offload 6 million litres of fuel. It's agri-diesel, it's white diesel, it's kerosene for home heating.
So it's interesting that the news reports keep on describing this as a shortage, which we are experiencing a global fuel shortage. But from what a commenter, uh, allegedly from Ireland, commented on my stream last night, I guess they saw the video today, and they commented today, but the stream was last night. They said that the fuel price has risen to the equivalent of like $10 a gallon, and they say that in large part this is due to taxes, and that they are protesting for a cap on the fuel at like the equivalent of like $6. So that is at least what I have heard from an Irish commenter. Now, I think if you have a shortage, it's probably pretty hard to cap the price. So yeah, it is a little bit strange. I don't know. I think it's probably a little bit of both. Like I think that I think that there is probably a shortage, and they do probably also have high gas taxes. So I think what they're asking for is relief from the taxes so they can afford the gas. Yeah, that's kind of what I'm understanding. Because obviously it just happened. It just started happening a month ago when all this other stuff happened. So it's clearly a supply shortage that is at the root of it. But I'm sure the taxes definitely play a role in it being higher. Tonight, though, is apparently the shit is going to go down there apparently tonight, because they called in the military. The crowds increased, and from what I'm seeing, things are going to heat up tonight. But yeah, I think that is all I got for tonight. I have some new videos out. Seems like some of them have been doing all right. I changed the thumbnail on this one again. We'll see how that goes. Little behind the scenes, I'm going to be appearing on this channel tomorrow, Casual Revolt, just during the day. This guy's awesome. This is a teacher who does political and historical commentary as a jester. So that'll be fun tomorrow. And yeah, definitely check out those other videos. I'm going to be putting out hopefully 3 videos a week. I got another one coming maybe tomorrow, maybe the next day. And then I have a bigger one that I'm working on that might take a little bit longer. Yeah, no. I always appreciate y'all and your comments and engagement. It's very, very awesome and helps things flow along. Except for when you make me laugh and I forget what the hell I'm talking about, which I've heard that that's a goal for some of y'all. But it's all good. Yeah, I will catch you. I don't know if I'm going to do tomorrow night because I have I'm going to do the daytime stream with Casual Revolt, and I want to finish some of these videos that I'm working on. But yeah, it was always great talking to y'all and trying to sift through the craziness of this world. And yeah, Dodongo, this is the one that I told you to check out, the most recent one on the deep dives. But yeah, peace out. I will catch you next time. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and check out my other videos. And if you have the ability and want to contribute, take a look at my Patreon, where you can find a subscription to my books and a bunch of other cool stuff, like the ability to send links in chat and access to closed rooms in our Discord server.